Welcome to the Weather Guru podcast, focusing specifically on Major Hurricane Beryl as it churns its way ever so close to the Jamaica and Grand Cayman Islands. This is going to be talking about the 8 p.m. latest advisory from the National Hurricane Center. We're going to be discussing the location, the track, as well as look at the storm dynamics, the intensity, the structure of the storm, looking at the eye, as we've approached nightfall here on the East Coast, as well as in the Atlantic Standard Time coast in the Caribbean. It's nightfall in the Northern Hemisphere. So we're going to be getting into that right now. Thank you for joining me on this. My name is Tony. Once again, we're talking about the 8 p.m. update for Hurricane Beryl. Right now, it's forecast to make a direct hit onto Jamaica. This includes all of Jamaica hurricane warnings. As of the 8 p.m. advisory, all of the warnings remain in place, but they've added now the hurricane watches for the Yucatan Peninsula and the tropical storm watch for the northern Belize coast. I think Belize and some of the islands off of Belize are going to be largely spared for right now, but you never know. So the Hurricane Center did issue for this 8 p.m. advisory tropical storm watch for northern Belize coast, north of Belmont Pond, Belize. And also for Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, all the way from Quintana Roo, and those parishes, those counties there, all the way up northern up to the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula. So that's what we have the new in terms of watches and advisories. Now the movement remains the same, west-northwest at 22 miles an hour. This storm is booking it, but it will, with the wind shear and everything that's currently taking place, I believe that it will slow down after it passes the Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. So sometime on Thursday afternoon into Friday, that's when I believe that the slowdown of this storm will take place. Not much, nothing significant, but I do think it's going to slow down somewhat as it feels more the influence of that ridge of high pressure that's above it right now, the steering currents. Haiti and Dominican Republic, one more thing before I get off this map. Haiti and Dominican Republic are experiencing tropical storm force winds right now on the southern side. The tropical storm force winds grew in size here. It's up to 185 miles an hour. 185 miles out from the center. Hurricane force winds remain at that constant 40 miles out from the center of the eye, plus or minus either side. So this is what we have, and pressure remained at 943 millibars. I believe it was around the same for the 5 p.m. advisory. Now there is some discussion here because the storm, as you can tell, it has weakened on the western side. Many of you have been noting that. Many of you have been saying that the western side is being decayed. Obviously, wind has been entraining dry air as well as the wind shear coming out of the southwest there, and that is absolutely correct. It's definitely degrading the appearance of the system. Even on the eastern side, there's some gaps here in terms of the convection on the southeastern side quadrant of this system. Northeastern side still looks healthy. You see a plume of convection there. But as I play the last frame here, you can see that the eye has clouded over. Central dense overcast has taken over the eye. Is no longer as clear down to the bottom of the sea as you would like to see with that stadium effect. And it has also shrunk in size, as you've noticed here. The eye has also shrunk in size. Now, as it continues, you can see Jamaica in here in the corner. Right now, let's get the current distance from Jamaica. It is currently 360 miles or 580 kilometers east-southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. So it'll continue to cover that ground. And in the morning time, that's what I was saying, in the morning time, by 7 a.m., 8 a.m., Jamaica, you definitely would be in the tropical storm force winds by then. And then that will increase gradually, storm force, gale force, hurricane force, as we get at lunchtime. So between lunchtime, 12 p.m. noon, and 8 p.m., all of Jamaica now, from Kingston to St. Anne to St. Andrews to Montego Bay, Negril, all of these areas are going to be affected by the storm, as it's going to basically be a direct approach into Jamaica from the east-southeast. And that's why you're going to be experiencing those strong winds over 110 miles an hour, gusts possibly up to 130, 140. You're going to be experiencing storm surge anywhere in the order of 4 to 6 feet on that southern and eastern coast, and additionally heavy rainfall. But the rainfall is if the system is still moving at the current pace, we probably only going to get maybe about 4 to 8 inches, 10 inches maximum in the Blue Mountains and those areas east of the eastern parishes there. So that's what Jamaica, that's what we're looking forward to. It's going to be a really nasty raw day on Wednesday, starting after 8 or 9 p.m. and start getting into more of the action. Now, the good news is that this thing has a tight wind field gradient from the hurricane force winds, only 40 miles. So once you get into that, you have to be really in that inner core to get those winds ramping up into the 140s, 150s, where it was earlier. So I believe the Hurricane Center is considering Before I get to that, I just want to show you the sea surface temperatures and why we're dealing with this. We have 29 degrees Celsius sea surface temperatures in the Caribbean, as well as in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. And I also want to show you something here very interesting. This is Hurricane Ivan's path back in 2004, that record-breaking year. Here we are some 20 odd years later, and we're on the potential record-breaking season here, 20 odd years later. You can see Hurricane Ivan path did exactly the same thing. It went south of Jamaica, very close to the island there, and this is exactly the same kind of path that Hurricane Beryl was following now. So I want to show you, this is courtesy of Wikipedia. This is Hurricane Ivan's path, and a lot of you remember that. This storm here, Hurricane Beryl, is going to be the strongest storm to impact Jamaica since Hurricane Gilbert, of course, in '89. Many of you remember that, but this is going to be more of a direct hit, and this is going to be possibly still at a borderline Cat 4 or a strong Cat 3. So you're looking at anywhere between 120, I would say, or 130, 35 miles an hour, depending on how the hurricane center plays it. Now, the good news is that they are saying that it is weakening. The cloud tops are warming here around the eye. And also, like I said, the convection looks a little ragged. It's not the outflow and inflow is being affected drastically by this wind shear, as it should be, because the storm can't get vertically stacked all the way through the low, mid, and upper levels if it's, being sheared apart. If it's being blown off like an ice cream cone, the tops are being blown off to the side. And so it's trying to lick on that warm ocean water on the floor, on the sea floor there, but it's being blown away. It's trying to catch up to itself. So, and this is what we're seeing in the wind field. All of this stuff here on the northeastern side, you can see the wind, the tropical storm force winds are lopsided all on the northeast and eastern quadrants, and then that southwest and west quadrant, the tropical storm force winds only extend out, not as far into the ocean, and because of the lopsidedness of the storm. So I expect that to continue. The big news is that at 11 p.m. Eastern time, we're going to find out, we're going to get the next update, and in that update I expect the Hurricane Center to bring the winds down a little bit. Now, then they may bring it down a lot, but it is weakening significantly here on the satellite presentation, and so you may see it down to 140 or something like that, or maybe 135, but not too much, just based on the pressure, because the pressure is holding at 943 millibars. So I don't think they'll lower it that much, but they will bring it down, the winds down just a touch, I believe, in the 11 p.m. advisory. They're just waiting on the airplanes, the P3 Orion's Hurricane Hunter airplanes, to get in there one last time at the 11 p.m. advisory. So once the aircraft make their fixes and three passes through the storm there, through all the quadrants, they'll report back to them, and I'm pretty sure they'll drop the intensity just a little, not a lot. So, but still, either way, it's still going to be a major hurricane affecting Jamaica, Cat 3 or Cat 4 easily, just because of the nature of the beast that we're dealing with. Now, guys, in the graphics here, I just want to show you something else too as well. Now, I showed you Hurricane Ivan's path for a reason here back in 2004, because it was a similar type of setup here. Well, at first we thought it was going to go west like this toward Texas and Mexico and the Yucatan Peninsula, and then around the midpoint, somewhere around Thursday, it shifted and went right up into the Gulf like that. And another thing I want to share with you too is, for U.S. interest, it's possible that if the steering currents break down, if that high pressure breaks down and moves to the east, that's up here in the Tennessee Valley, if that high pressure breaks down here, and so let's say it moves to the east, that means that the steering currents is going to weaken for the storm, even though it's going to move north. And you know what that means? It gives the storm more time in the Gulf of Mexico to develop, and that's why the intensity is so uncertain. Even the Hurricane Center mentioned that even if it stays over here, the steering currents break down. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not going to be moving at no 22 miles an hour in the Gulf. That's for sure. So if this storm gets out here and stalls in the Gulf and slows down to, let's say, 5 to 10 miles an hour or even slower, we got a big problem on our hands for a Cat 3, maybe a Cat 3, another Cat 3 landfall somewhere along the Gulf Coast. I'm not willing to say where, but that's the concern was, because this is the same thing that Ivan did. I'm showing you Hurricane Ivan's path back in 2004, because it passed right south of Jamaica, came up toward the Yucatan Peninsula, but it turned north instead of going west, continuing on, following that subtropical ridge high pressure. And normally this type of setup, ladies and gentlemen, of this high pressure, all these high pressure, this is something that we see later on in hurricane season. You know that. We normally see this in late August, September, October. That is the meat of the hurricane season. And so to see this at this time of year is very unusual. It's something that is, that we normally don't see happening in quite some time. But because of that, now here's some other questions that we have too. I want to answer this for you too as well. An eye wall replacement cycle. Can the system go through one more eyewall replacement cycle before reaching Jamaica? Well, right now it's only about 580 miles southeast of Jamaica right now, and it's going to cover that distance overnight tonight to get into Jamaica by tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. So I don't think it has enough time to go through another eyewall replacement cycle, but it's possible. And if it does, it'll be weakened to a category 3. If it does go through another eyewall replacement cycle, and that still has winds between 111 and 130 miles an hour. Either way you look at it. So either way, Jamaica's going to be dealing with a major hurricane here once again, and that's going to include sustained winds above 85 miles an hour, gusts well above 130 at times. Now on Wednesday, that's the worst of it. So the worst of it once again for Jamaica is going to be from Kingston to Negril, all the way over Westmoreland, all the areas. It's going to be from 12 p.m. noon to 8 p.m. That's basically covers the whole island. That's going to be the worst of the weather. After midnight, conditions will gradually improve. It'll go down to tropical storm force winds, and then the watches and warnings will be dropped obviously Thursday morning, because Cayman Islands will be dealing with this, whatever's left of this, and it'll definitely be weakened because Jamaican's mountainous, and the storm structure is going through some changes right now, as you can see. And so it'll probably be a category 3 after it leaves Jamaica, 2 possibly, and then it'll go through Cayman. And then after that, it's fair game as anyone's guess, as to what type of structure remains and where it's going after that. If this forecast does verify, then it will cross over the Yucatan Peninsula and come back into the Gulf, reemerge into the Gulf. As right now they have it as a tropical storm, so we don't know. That's very uncertain right here. Could emerge as a hurricane, come back as a Cat 1 or Cat 2 in the Gulf, and like I said, that's also not off the table. And then this track here that's not off the table either, that it could turn north, even further north than this, so that could play places like Houston, Galveston, Beaumont, Lake Charles, Louisiana, stuff like that. It depends on what happens with the high pressure. If the high pressure up north breaks down, then that means a more northerly turn, and a slower northerly turn, mind you, and that gives this Hurricane Beryl more time to re-intensify after whatever's left of it comes off the Yucatan Peninsula. So that is the question marks that a lot of forecasters have. As far as Jamaica, definitely take your precautions. Definitely, make sure you have power, water, battery, flashlights, all of that stuff, because it's, you're definitely going to lose power with these type of winds and this type of, surge coming into the island, directly into the island, because you're going to be in that northeast quadrant right here with all this convection coming in like that. And the right front quadrant's the strongest quadrant, so that means you're going to see winds accelerating as it passes over you. Like I said, it's not uncommon to have winds gusting up to 140, and at times in a system that, is a Cat 3, Cat 4, sustained winds anywhere from 96 to 120 miles an hour for Wednesday. The good news is the system is moving fast, west-northwest, still at 22 miles an hour, which is exceptionally fast for a major hurricane, and it'll be done. So Wednesday will be a one-and-done thing. Right now, Haiti and Dominican Republic, the eye is directly beneath you. Maybe about let's say the last frame, they would say about 280 miles south of Haiti and Dominican Republic, Hispaniola, the border. So they're getting tropical storm force winds right now from the system, and heavy rain and convection in the mountains of Dominican Republic and Haiti. So they want to take precautions because they could be at risk, even though it's not heavy rain, it still can be at risk for landslides and mudslides with this type of rain. And they've been dry. This area of Northern Caribbean has been very dry. It hadn't gotten a lot of rain up here in Hispaniola and Puerto Rico. So just be careful if you're in that area. There could be landslides or mudslides and stuff like that. And in addition to heavy rain, the winds, it would be tropical storm sustained force. Probably at midnight tonight would be your worst. Between midnight and 3 a.m. would be the worst for Haiti and Dominican Republic in terms of winds, and it would just be tropical storm, 30, maybe 30 sustained, gusting to 50 maybe. And that's why the National Hurricane Service has already issued in blue here tropical storm warnings, and it'll be done by you guys by the night, because the system will be past you and on its way to its rendezvous with Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands, the same thing. However, Cayman Islands, your winds will be a little bit less depending on how far to the south that core passes from you on Grand Cayman and Georgetown and Little Cayman. So you should prepare the same way Jamaica's preparing for power outages and little street flooding, trees down, Some, structural damage could be possible as well. As far as that, same thing in Jamaica, roofs off. Same thing, kind of like what Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines had because of this type of system that's going to be happening here. And that thing too is the northeast quadrant up here tends to throw off a lot of could be like sort of tornadic whirls, or I want to say mini vortices or sub vortices that kind of spin up real quickly and throw winds. One time winds will jump real quick to 120, then back down to 80 or something, at 150. Sometimes these storms are sporadic and they spin up little tornadic spin ups, if we want to call it that. They come on land and they can cause damage too, take off roofs and take off. That's what we saw a lot of in the Curacao landfall in Grenada. In the island of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Curacao, that made landfall at. There was a lot of little mini vortices and sub vortices within the system. But the western side of this system is completely entrained in dry air and wind shear, southwesterly wind shear. You can see it flowing over Jamaica. See these clouds are flowing over Jamaica from south to northeast like that. That's the southwesterly wind shear that's going to be rendezvousing and tangling up with the system right now. It's just starting to tangle up with it right now, but they're going to adjust it at 11 p.m. and at the 11 p.m. advisory, the National Hurricane Center is probably going to end up dropping this thing down to about 140 miles an hour. It's going to be a gradual weakening. On paper, technically with the pressure, it's that's about right. I guess it could be 140 conservatively, but with the pressure being at 943 millibars, I guess that's pretty. I'm going to keep pretty right, pretty conservative. Now, but either way, a Cat 3, Cat 4 is still a major hurricane, as you know, and it's going to cause major damage to Jamaica, and also to get Cayman Islands. And so just prepare for that. It's nothing to be afraid of, but you got to prepare because this is going to come awfully close. And with this hurricane force winds extending out 40 miles from the center, ladies and gentlemen, that's a very fine, tight wind gradient here, okay? And so because that, it's not going to break down. See, they have it here. It's only going to break down a couple of 10, 20 miles an hour, 125 mile an hour storm. So in 24 hours, it's still a Cat 3, a major hurricane, according to the National Hurricane Center, and it's going to remain that way throughout much of its period in the Caribbean until we get 48 hours out and it drops down to 100 miles an hour, a Cat 2. In 36 hours. So we still have a couple of days with this to deal with this system here, and it's just something to keep in mind because we all are used to seeing these systems come in quickly and not have an effect, but this is going to have an effect on everybody. And most of the northern Caribbean here. And I just want to show you the wind history here. You can see the swath of hurricane winds, force winds in red here. It's only a 40-mile swath, but you can see the tropical storm force winds now just touching the southern coast of the Dominican Republic. They're just now getting into the action. Later on today on Monday, it's a 100% chance Jamaica will be in there on the tropical storm force winds. Probably starting, the onslaught of that is going to be starting at 8 a.m. in the morning, 8:30 to 9 a.m. in the morning. Hurricane force winds are going to begin probably by noon, lunchtime, between 12 and all the way through 8 p.m. is when the hurricane conditions are going to be on Jamaica. And then after sunset, you'll get a couple more hours. The winds will switch direction to the northeast. And then that's how that the system is starting to pull away. And then the winds will switch one more time to the southwest, and the system be gone and just be breezy by Thursday. And who knows, the sun may come out. It'll just be an overcast day for you and Cayman Islands as well. So that's what we have looking at here. Now, a couple other things too. What I want to mention to you too is that this path is pretty much confirmed a lot with the models. And like I said, this is eerily similar to Hurricane Ivan. Hurricane Ivan's track right here took a similar track south of Jamaica, and then it pulled northwest, and then it pulled due north into the, in the Alabama coastline there. Basically, then did a little loop-de-loop back into Louisiana for a second landfall. I don't think that Hurricane Beryl is going to take the same track, but I do think it's going to pull north into the Gulf, and it's going to be a close call how much they adjust it, So that's why I say Thursday is going to be the critical day here. The critical day here is going to be Thursday. After Thursday morning is going to be the critical day to see whether the models shift this to the northwest and north up into the Gulf like that, or does it keep it on this northwest track toward Texas. That's going to be the critical day once we get past that. So that's what we're looking at as well. Now, also, I want to say too that these storms have a way of creating its own environment, but this is not the case in this storm. This storm here is not going to be able to, at least initially in the short term, in the next 8 hours, is not going to be able to fight off both the dry air and the wind shear at the same time and intensify back into a Cat 5. That's not likely to happen with this system, even though it's defied the odds thus far. But right now it is under a weakening trend, so that's the good news. We pray and hope that it continues to weaken through the 11 p.m. advisory and through the 5 a.m. advisory coming up in the morning. But we just have to wait and see. But I do anticipate at 11 p.m. in the next advisory that the Hurricane Center steps it down probably 10 miles an hour to 140. It's at what is it, 150 now, I believe? Yeah, 150 right now. So I believe they'll step it down back into category, well, it's in category 4 now, but they'll step it down further to 140, depending on the minimum central pressure. Right now it's at 943. So I think that the cloud tops are warming. I think the pressure will come up to 946 maybe, or 947. So that should put it at 140 or 135 type of storm, a mile an hour max sustained winds. I believe that the movement will continue to be fast until the morning as it's making its way to Jamaica. A beeline toward Jamaica still is going to be 21, 22 miles an hour because the high pressure subtropical high is in total complete control right now, at least until we get past Jamaica and Grand Cayman and Little Cayman Island. So that's what we have going on right there in terms of that. This other system here, just speaking of it really quickly here, this is giving a low percent, only a 20 or 10% chance of development. It's running in the dry air. It's also running at the Saharan desk, and it just doesn't have a lot of convection with it like it was a couple of days ago. So this will not become the next D-named storm, at least not right now, but it will bring beneficial rain, probably to Trinidad and Tobago, and possibly the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Curacao, and even some of the middle Leeward Islands, like Martinique and Anguilla, and it'll bring some beneficial rains as a tropical wave to help refill the water tanks there. Elsewhere in the Eastern Pacific, we have nothing going on. We have a little system here. They're giving a 50% chance. The Eastern Pacific is going to get active too as well, as you know. But these tend to move away from Mexico coast most of the time. Sometimes they move up and hit Cabo. But this one here is looking like it's going to be moving northwestward. So it's kind of skirt the coast and not affecting any land masses right now. Central Pacific is looking absolutely fabulous, clear. Hawaii is looking good. So this is right now the game in town is Hurricane Beryl, and also this little disturbance here, which is pretty much going to die out in the next 2 days, 2 to 3 days. But then again, it could pulse up as it gets further and further west as it continues to move westward. And if the hostile winds over Beryl and the wind shear, laxes in the next 7 days, but we won't know that until later on. So this is what Beryl's doing. Some observation reports are reporting that they are experiencing tropical storm force winds in on the southern shore of Dominican Republic and also the western shore of Haiti. They will be getting into that. They will be getting some of the outer bands here of Beryl, probably in the next 3 hours here. So by midnight, they'll be into that, and that'll be the worst. So for the Haiti and Dominican Republic, the southern coastline, your worst time frame for seeing anything is from midnight to about 4 or 5 a.m. After that, things should be improving. The watches and warnings will probably still be up. Tropical storm watches will probably still be up for you throughout the day, but tomorrow. But it'll be less of an effect. It'll just be kind of like your garden variety thunderstorms that you normally would see, and being in this type of the world, in this part of the world. So that's what we have going on here. I did want to show you the current surface map of the U.S. to see if there's any fronts or anything coming across. There is one front draped here that's coming across, but I just don't know if it's going to be able to link up with Beryl in time, or Beryl will even be in the Gulf by this time. And it looks like it's just not going to be in the Gulf of Mexico at this time that this frontal boundary comes across, unless it stalls across Florida or something like that. So we're just looking for connections right now. High pressures are firmly in control, and that's why the Hurricane Center has issued this track continuing to be on that way. But I just want to show you that it's possible that it could turn north into the Gulf very quickly if that higher pressure up here erodes. And this is what Hurricane Ivan did 20 years ago in 2004. So it was not out of the question to follow the same track. And ironically, it was close to the same southern latitude that Beryl went through. It just passed Tobago here. It just passed the lower Grenada. It came through Grenada too as well. But Beryl was just a little bit north and into the Grenadines Island, Curacao, which is just north here. But you can see the data points exactly the same almost as Hurricane Beryl. So I thought I would show you that tonight, just to show you some perspective of something to happen 20 years ago. And this storm here is following almost the exact same path that Hurricane Ivan took 20 years ago. Isn't that crazy? This is back in 2004. So we're right here. It's a little bit, and Ivan now it's just a little bit. Beryl is just a little bit north here. It's up here, and Ivan, what do you call it? Beryl, I'm sorry, and Beryl is right here. Ivan is right here. So now it's pulling a little more northwest of this track, but it's still going to be a direct hit on Jamaica, as you can see right here. Boom, right there. There it is. So just want to show you that to put in some perspective. So here, once again, just to recap for all those just coming in, Beryl will remain a major hurricane going toward Jamaica. Jamaica can expect in the morning, starting at 9 a.m., to experience tropical storm force winds anywhere from 30 to 73 miles an hour, 39 to 73 miles an hour. Tropical storm conditions will continue to about lunchtime. Lunchtime, it will ramp up to hurricane conditions. Hurricane conditions will last from 12 p.m. noon to 8 p.m. across the whole island virtually, but the eastern and southern sides are going to take the most whacking because they're going to be in that northeast quadrant there of the storm, the right front quadrant, for the longest time. Now, the storm is moving fast. That's a blessing in disguise. So Wednesday is your only day of impact. From that afternoon time frame, from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. will be the worst of it. And then after that, towards midnight, it should be getting better. Conditions will gradually improve into the morning as it pulls into the Cayman Islands. And this storm is definitely going to be weaker after it crosses Jamaica. We don't know how weak. It could be a Cat 2 still. It could be a Cat 3 rolling through there and still come through Cayman Islands as a Cat 3 is too. But it will be weaker. We're not sure how much weaker right now. They may have it as like a 120 mile an hour storm or something like that. So it's still a Cat 3. So that's going to be the concern. But stock up on food, water, batteries. Power is going to go out. That's almost a certainty. Jamaica government was telling us this morning. I was watching the program. They were saying that make sure that you stock them on water because the water systems, may be overwhelmed with some of the flooding, street flooding, and different things that may be going on. And so that's what you want to do to prepare for the system that's coming in here. So we've covered Hispaniola, we've covered Jamaica, we've covered Cayman. Next up after that, depending on if it continues on its northwest track or it pulls north into the Gulf. We have a weaker system or a stronger system depending on how strong, if the wind shear laxes or not. That's another question that we have too. Is the wind shear going to lax up after it passes Jamaica and Cayman Islands? That's another question that a lot of people have. So we just have to wait and see. Wednesday and Thursday are the critical days for this system because that determines whether or not it's gonna turn directly north into the Gulf, or is going to continue on its northwest track and get over into the Bay of Campeche and affect Texas, possibly southern Texas, or northern Mexico. So that's the critical portion as well. So this update, like I said, the only new changes was that the pressure came up a little, and max sustained winds still at 150, and also they added Mexico, the Yucatan Peninsula, and the watches and warnings, and they also added the northern Belize and the tropical storm watch. So Belize, you're almost out of the cone now, but still you could possibly on the southern side you could get tropical storm conditions, but depending on that's later on in the track and Friday. So there's greater certainty for Wednesday and Thursday, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's where things get a little bit uncertain with the models, not only with the models but just in general, because the intensity and track depend on so many other outside environmental factors other than the storm structure itself. And so that's what we're looking at too as well. So we're going to be curious to see too, like I said, how much of a disruption the flow, outflow, and inflow of this storm is going to take on once it makes that direct impact on Jamaica, because the mountains obviously disrupt the flow. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Some storms can go over these things and not lose too much of a beat. Some storms can completely fall apart, and the eye disintegrates and reforms again once it leaves, land mass or structure. So we just have to wait and see what happens. But the western side is definitely eroded here. As you can see, we have that high southwesterly wind shear. We have dry air entrainment. We have the internal structure of the thunderstorms not blowing up and convecting like they are on the eastern side here. You can see that. And you can see the eye is totally kind of filled in now. That's not a good sign for strengthening, I can tell you that now. But it may reemerge later on in the morning in the visible satellite. But like I told you, that eye wall replacement cycle could happen. It still has about 540 miles of real estate left before it runs into Jamaica. So we have to wait and see in the morning how that plays out. So that's what we have going on here, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any questions or concerns, please leave them in the comments. I appreciate your support, all the love, and all the comments. I read them all, and we're definitely going to stay here with you until the next advisory. So another thing too to look at too is that if the system manages to wobble, let's say the eye does come on partially onshore, it's possible that the northern eye wall can come onshore, but the southern eye wall stays offshore. So they can have a partial landfall in Jamaica And like the northern eye wall will affect everybody, from all these eastern parishes back to Kingston and back to Negril, but part of it stays offshore. It's possible to have that too. That's something to consider, that you can have a partial landfall with the northern eye wall is grazing along the coast like that, and the rest of the storm stays offshore. So look out for that. But if that happens, either way, Jamaica's in the hurricane force winds. If that happens, because hurricane force winds extend out 40 miles from either side of the center here. So, but I'm saying, I'm just letting you know that you can have a partial landfall too. But it needs to be, in order for it to be a direct hit, all of the eye needs to come ashore onto Jamaica, just to make that clear. Just like any other system, any other landmass, and then that'll be a direct hit on Jamaica. That's something that hasn't happened in quite a long time. Like I said, since Hurricane Gilbert, the last one I can remember. Hurricane Ivan too, but Hurricane Gilbert is the one that stands out the most there. And just like Ivan, like I said, the storm is following a similar path, albeit a little bit north, because it hit the Grenadines up here, and then it came up like this. Now it's right here. See, I'm positioning it for you. And now if it continues on this west-northwest path, it's supposed to come like that, like so, and continue north-northwestward like that, and come up like that. So that's what the Hurricane Center is forecasting, that it will stay on the right side of this cone and do something like this. Come in, boom, hit the Caymans, come in like that, come on the right side, hit the Yucatan Peninsula, and then turn like that, somewhere into Texas or Louisiana. That's possible. That's feasible. What's also possible is that the models could spread on Thursday and they can turn up sooner. The turn can happen much sooner, and the system slows down, albeit a weaker system. Depending on the water temperature here is not a problem. It's always 85, 86 degrees in the Gulf. But if there's some kind of shear, or the system has an internal issue, meaning that the structure falls apart because it's been gone over, it went over the tip of Cuba, the landmass there, and it went over some other landmass, and down there, Rio Pinar and all that, then it won't have much time to strengthen. But if it slows down, it gets up here, and let's say it slows down to 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, and then comes in for a landfall, that would be catastrophic. That'd be a category 3 at least coming into the Gulf. And I still think there's a chance that it can re-strengthen wherever side it comes in, whether it comes in on the Texas side or the Florida side. I still think this is going to re-strengthen whatever's left of it. Once it gets done, all these masses, with all the land masses, is going to come to a category 3 minimum, 115 miles an hour storm, making landfall somewhere in the Gulf Coast of Florida, possible, because we've seen that before, that rapid intensification that happens in the Gulf, and all of a sudden the storm just blows up, 150, 130 miles an hour storm, and people say, oh, it was just a tropical storm the other day, and the next thing you know, it's a category 5, what I'm saying? So that can happen as well. So all the possibilities will be ironed out later on Thursday afternoon. But right now, the main concern is Jamaica and the Cayman Islands. Our brothers and sisters in Jamaica and the Cayman Islands, they are definitely going to be feeling the effects of this system, even if they don't get the hurricane force winds that are 40 miles out from the center. Just having this massive size of a system, as you can see denoted in yellow, you have 185 miles worth of tropical storm force winds that can contain all kinds of, thunderstorms that could possibly throw tornadoes or water spouts, in that area or in that vicinity. It's just not going to be a great day on Wednesday. However, they will get through it. Jamaica, Cayman Islands, they're strong country, strong people. They'll get through it. They will, be hardy people. They will rebuild. They will do whatever it takes. And so, they're used to it in this part of the world. And as well as Hispaniola, all these places have dealt with major hurricanes before, whether it's Ivan or Gilbert or Maria, Hurricane Maria that devastated Puerto Rico. So they know how to deal with it, but it's just going to be a slow process. So we'll definitely keep them in our prayers. And like I said, that this storm here, you see some convection on that last frame there. You see how the thunderstorms are being blown apart here on this last frame on the western side. They're trying to get back, but they're being blown all which directions. So that's good news. That's excellent news that the storm is weakening significantly. Just look at the structure on the satellite. You can tell that it is starting. The thunderstorms are being blown every which direction. There's only that tight core there, and the eye is completely collapsed on itself. It's filled in. So that tells me that it's weakening, possibly to a category 3, on its way to a category 3. But category 3, it's still 111 to about 130, 125 miles an hour. So, we're still talking heavy winds, but I'm saying it's weakening here tonight, and that's a great sign for Jamaica. It will kind of soften the blow, so to speak, okay? So, but the thing is, we have to be concerned about the surge because it still has a bubble of water underneath this thing, underneath the eye, storm surge. Wave heights are already probably 30, 40, 50 feet, no question about it, 30 to 40 feet underneath this bubble because it's carrying the swell with it. So that east-southeasterly swell that's going going to come into Jamaica, it's going to cause some flooding, and also stuff like that. Just having the rain come down on this soil, because Jamaica hadn't had a lot of rain in the last week or so. And so when you talk about that, when rain comes down, even if it's just 4 to 8 inches on that type of soil, it becomes like concrete. It runs down kind of like a burn scar, and it creates those kind of mudslides and landslides. So I want people to be careful that once the storm passes, be very careful for those little small streams and creeks in the mountainous areas or outside the mountainous areas, because they definitely will be running high. And it could be landslides or mudslides there. So that's something I want to mention to you too as well, that once the all clear is given after the storm has passed, Thursday afternoon, Thursday morning, be very careful, because there could be streets flooding and storm surge flooding and stuff like that, not just on the east and southern coast, but also on the western coast, because the storm is going to traverse the whole island, either partially or go directly over the island fully, all of the island and everything, for an official landfall. So that's what we're seeing right now. I just want to bring you that update. I thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or concerns, yes, Jamaica. You're in Jamaica right now, David. How far? You asked how far is it now? Currently, from Jamaica, it is about 550 miles southeast of Jamaica. So it's moving northwest at 22 miles an hour. So that will put it there. You will feel the effects starting around in the morning time. So starting at 9 a.m. in the morning, you will feel the effects. On Wednesday morning, you'll feel the effects of this system. The closest pass, according to the Hurricane Center right now, is at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. So the worst of it is basically from lunchtime to noon all the way through about 9 p.m. just after dark on Wednesday, tomorrow night. That'll be the worst of it. It'll start pulling away from Jamaica gradually. And then by 2 a.m. Thursday, it's at least 100 miles west of Jamaica, about to impact the Cayman Islands. So that's correct. So Jamaica, the worst of it for you, once again, for those of you there, whether you're in Kingston, The Grill, Montego Bay, Westmoreland, St. Andrew, St. Anne's, any of those parishes, you're going to feel the worst of it from about lunchtime to about 9 p.m. at night. And that's going to be it, to about sunset. Then it'll start pulling away. You'll still have tropical storm conditions until the midnight hour, and then after 2 a.m., it's all bets are off. It'll be pulling far enough away where it's affecting the Cayman Islands, whatever's left of it. It won't be a major hurricane, probably a Category 2, still winds of 90 miles to 100 miles an hour, and you guys will be on definitely improving conditions, no longer deteriorating conditions. And by Thursday afternoon, it's well past you guys. The sun should be out, or partially, and you guys should be safe. And as long as the Cayman Islands will be safe as well, it'll be a quick glancing blow, and everybody be safe. So that's the blessing of it for those of you in Jamaica. It's a quick moving system, a quick blow, but it'll be a powerful blow for sure. And you don't want to take it lightly, because anytime you got winds over 110 miles an hour sustained facing you, it's no joke. And for those of us who have been in these storms, Cat 3, Cat 4, Cat 5, it never gets, it's always, each storm is unique. It never gets different. It never gets, it never gets old. So take the precautions. That is when it's coming in. That'll be the worst of it. Haiti and Dominican Republic, like I said, you're going to get the tropical storm force winds from about midnight to about 4 a.m. It's just now grazing your coast right now. Some of the outer feeder bands and some of the showers associated with Beryl are grazing your coastline now, your southern coastline of Haiti and southern coastline of Dominican Republic. So that's what we have going on here. Thank you for your support. Thank you. Good evening, Lenroy. Thank you for joining us here. I appreciate your support. What we're just going over is Jamaica experiencing the worst of it from about lunchtime to about 9 p.m. after sunset tomorrow. And then from there, we'll be moving on to Grand Cayman and Little Cayman. And so conditions will be improving. But you want to take the precautions, because this is going to come in as a category, probably they're going to keep it as a category 4, because category 4 starts at 1:30. It is going to downgrade some, but not as much as, it's going to weaken some, but not as much in time to make a real big difference. So 120, 130 miles an hour, it's not too much difference. It's just semantics at this point. A category 3, a low-end category, a high-end category 3, or a borderline category 4, it's pretty much, like I said, semantics. So you want to prepare for that. We prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. And, your strong people in Jamaica, I think you'll be able to come out okay. But there is going to be damage, because when you have this kind of winds coming into your neighborhood, some trees are going to be down, power lines are going to be down, roofs torn off some buildings, and some poorly designed structures are going to be heavily damaged, especially on the south and east coast of Jamaica. And because that's where you're going to be facing those winds coming in strongly off the north, from the northeast and northeast, and then it's going to change directions as it passes by you. So and like I said, once again, to delineate for Jamaica, it's possible that you could have a partial landfall where the northern eye wall is all the way on land, but that southern flank eye wall is offshore and just grazing the coast like this, So that's possible too. It's not out of the question that we've seen that before with a lot of these storms. That kind of like what happened with Hurricane Matthew that hit Haiti. It grazed the southern coast there and just kind of did like a buzzsaw approach, where half of it, the eye was onshore and half of it was offshore. So that's what's possible too, as well, So you'll get through this. And Cayman Islands, you'll get through this too. Georgetown, Cayman Islands, Little Cayman, all of that, you guys will get through this. But be safe. You want to be sheltered in and hunkered down tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. because that's when things are going to ramp up very fast, because the system is moving very, very fast at west-northwest at 22 miles an hour. And once again, it's 540 miles right now east-southeast of Kingston, Jamaica. And so it's going to cover that distance quickly overnight tonight, and by 9 a.m. it should be right up on you, right near you. And then the closest approach, according to the Hurricane Center right now, is going to be that 2 p.m. Wednesday time frame. So basically by lunchtime, it's going to be just about impacting the most populated areas there of Jamaica, and it will continue to last all day through sunset, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And then after that, things will start easing up a bit, and you'll get more of a southwesterly breeze. Probably still tropical storm force winds, because tropical storm force winds extend out 185 miles from the center. So the center of the storm will be pulled out at 2 a.m. Thursday. And by that time, in the morning, Thursday, 6 a.m., they'll discontinue all the warnings for Jamaica and possibly leave up a tropical storm warning for Cayman after it passes 2 p.m. on Thursday. And pretty much then you're pretty much in the clear. And the only thing we're not sure about, too, as well is what kind of system, what kind of structure we're going to be dealing with, the internal structure of the system. Right now, it looks very weak on the western side here, and also the eastern side. The convection is not as tightly wrapped as it was around the center, and it has a more ragged appearance, as you can see on satellite here. There is a lot of convection, but it's ragged. The coldest cloud tops are not wrapping around the center as you like, and the eye is collapsed. So it's weakening now. We believe it will continue to weaken at the 11 p.m. advisory. The 5 a.m. advisory tomorrow morning, that's going to be the critical one, because that's going to be technically one of the last advisories before it hits Jamaica. And then the 8 a.m. advisory, the 8 a.m. advisory will be the last one before it hits. Now, when it does hit Jamaica or make direct landfall, the National Hurricane Center will give updates every hour on the hour. So I'll be bringing you those as well. If it does, in fact, make a landfall, a full eye landfall, everything is on shore in Jamaica. We will know that probably by lunchtime, even though this thing here says 2 p.m. Wednesday, the eye would be on its closest approach, the center would be its closest approach. But we'll know that probably by lunchtime tomorrow, noon, whether or not Jamaica's going to get a full-on landfall, meaning the whole eye all of this is onshore on Jamaica. So, and they'll provide updates. The National Hurricane Center will provide updates every hour, on the hour, if that's the case. I'm sure they're going to do that tomorrow anyway, even if it's not a direct, hit, because it's passing so close to you. This is within 50 nautical miles now, 30 miles. The eye is forecast, according to this here, it looks like it's going to be within 10 to 30 nautical miles of the Jamaica coastline. So it's going to be, if not a direct hit. So that's why they're going to probably do every hour on the hour. That's going to be starting after noon. But I don't want to get ahead of myself, and I don't want to make calls for them because I'm not in a National Hurricane Center forecast or anything. So I'm just telling you that it's possible that when we do have a landfalling system, we do typically get every hour on the hour updates when it's actually making a landfall. At the center of the storm, the eye makes that landfall. So that's what we have going on here, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Glenmore, I'm glad you're living in Jamaica. What part? East part, west part? I hope you took the preparations there needed to be able to ride this out. The good news is, like I said, it's just a one-day event. By Thursday morning, it's gone. It's out of Jamaica. It's almost out of Cayman Islands, and it'll be a quick glancing blow, but a powerful blow. So we're looking at, once again, to be a high-end Category 3, possibly Category 4 still, as it makes a direct impact into Jamaica. Jamaica, when you get those worst of those winds between lunchtime and 9 p.m., they could be sustained winds, 100 miles an hour with gusts of 130, sometimes 140. depending on the atmospheric conditions. And that's because there's many vortices or many swirls that could be popped up in the eye wall or elsewhere. Lightning could be a thing, but shouldn't be too much of a thing. Mudslides and flooding is concerned because of, Jamaica hasn't had a lot of rain, like I said, so the ground is not saturated, it's not primed, I should say, and so the rain is going to fall like cement in some of the Blue Mountains and higher elevations of Jamaica and run down into the valleys. So you want to be careful for that. If you're going through creeks, streams, or driving up in the upper roads, they could be washed out, or some things could be happening with that too as well. But you can expect power outage, you can expect down trees, some roofs blown off, power. You can expect. You can also expect some debris along the beach. You can expect water level rise, storm surge, anywhere on the order of 4 to 8 feet possible on the south and east facing the extreme eastern beaches of Jamaica and the southern beaches east of Kingston and the Bay Area there. Okay, now this is going to affect the island, like I said, once again from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Now, for those of us, our friends in Haiti and Dominican Republic, your worst is going to be tonight. That's going to be from midnight to about 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning. And this is just going to be tropical storm conditions. So sustained winds between 30 and 40 miles an hour, sometimes gusting to 50. You will experience a little bit of a surge. It's only like 1 to 2 feet, so it's insignificant because it's blowing by you fast, and that push water level rise is not going to be enough significant. But there could be some mudslides or landslides in some of the higher elevations away from the shoreline if you're not careful, because you are getting rain right now from the outer feeder bands of the storm. So just want to take those precautions as well. And then while you're in the southern part, you're going to get probably the worst of it because you're in the southern part of Jamaica, and that's where the northeast quadrant is expected to come or graze or either make a direct hit. So in the southern part, anybody in those southern parishes, yes, you're going to definitely get close to hurricane force winds and definitely hurricane force gusts, flooding, all of that. But like I said, it's going to be a quick hitting system. So your worst is going to be from noon, lunchtime. The tropical storm force winds are going to arrive before lunchtime, but I'm saying the worst of it, the hurricane force winds, are going to be from lunchtime all the way to about sunset, 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And then after that, things should calm down a bit. And the winds, once the winds switch direction and you get that south-southwesterly breeze, then that's how you know that the system has passed you. And you'll just have the typical showers and tropical storm conditions. And Cayman Islands will have to deal with whatever's left of it, which will still be a major hurricane at that. So, so that's what we have going on there. So just take those precautions. Continue to prepare, Linroy, and everybody else in Jamaica. You're on our prayers and thoughts, and Cayman, and anybody else is impacted, such as that could be the Yucatan, northern Belize, Texas, and the U.S. coast as well, because we'll know more about the U.S. coast combination for those folks listening in the U.S. The models will have a better handle on it Thursday morning after 2 a.m., after it passes the Cayman Islands. So that Thursday update, intermediate advisory at 2 p.m. Thursday, if this track holds up. If it doesn't hold up, if it is shifted north, then you know that the high pressure over America is weakening, and this thing is definitely going to get into the eastern Gulf and affect somebody up here as a Category 3 probably. But if the track holds up and the high pressure holds up, then that means that this critical advisory for the U.S. interests as well as Mexico interests will be at the 2 p.m. Thursday juncture. Whatever system is left, whether it's a Category 1 or 2 Beryl, by then it will be weakened by this point at 2 p.m. Thursday. That'll be the critical update to decide whether it turns north in the Gulf like this or it continues north-northwest into the Bay of Campeche, affecting Texas or Mexico. We'll see. So that's the critical update. So once again, I just want to show you that. And the reason why we have all this is because the sea surface temperature is so warm. We're not in the El Nino pattern right now. We're just in the abnormally warm part for June or July. We just entered July, and we already had the Cape Verde season taken in effect because temperatures are 28, 29 degrees Celsius all the way out towards Africa. So that's why we have that. There is Saharan dust. We get a lull in the in the activity for the next 2 weeks. So there's nothing going to be happening in terms of in the Atlantic or the Caribbean or Gulf of Mexico after we get through Beryl. So we don't expect Debbie. Debbie's the next name on the hurricane list. We don't expect that to be coming anytime in the next 2 weeks. There's no waves coming off Africa that look anything significant here as well. So now I'm going to just show you the wind speed probabilities here. Jamaica, there's a 100% chance in purple here that you're going to get tropical storm force winds. Well, that's pretty obvious, right? You're about 24 hours from landfall now. Cayman Islands as well, right here, purple. Anybody in the purple is a 100% chance of getting tropical storm force winds. That's winds between 39 and 73 miles an hour. But you also also going to get those hurricane force winds above 74 miles an hour for sure in Jamaica. In the southern part, the northern part, eastern part, it's going to be the whole island at some point during the day Wednesday. Same thing for Cayman. Everybody else is dealing with right now tropical storm force conditions right now, like Haiti and Dominican Republic. Yeah, they're right on the money on that. So this has been a spot on forecast for us that. But it hasn't, we had some uncertainties obviously with the track and intensity of this thing. Even the models got that kind of wrong. Nobody expected this to be a Category 5 leaving the St. Vincent and the Grenadines and that lower latitude, but we've never had a hurricane come at this lower latitude before since Ivan. And I showed you Ivan's path. Ivan started way out here, and but Ivan started, of course, at a later point. It started in September, I believe. It wasn't a July or June storm like this, so that's something very unusual. But we have to deal with it now, and that's the cards that have been dealt. But we'll be blessed. Jamaica be blessed. Cayman be blessed. All desert islands be blessed as well, and we'll get through this, and it'll make us stronger for the next system that's coming on, because we're just starting. We got to November 30th, ladies and gentlemen. The hurricane season doesn't end until November 30th, so we've got plenty of time to practice and prepare, to learn from things, to learn from different things that and take those forward to the next system that we may experience in the Caribbean or in the Atlantic or in the U.S. or in Mexico or any of the islands, any of the locations or territories. So that's the blessing of it. So I'm going to sign off now and get ready for the 11 p.m. update, and then the 5 a.m. update later on in the morning. For those of you in Jamaica, finish your preparations up by midnight tonight and hunker down and just get ready to ride this thing out for the next 24 hours. And everybody else, be safe as well. And I'll talk to you very soon. This is the Weather Guru signed off. Tony from the Weather Guru signing off, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you for joining me, guys. Have a great